People in public office occasionally do terrible things. From time to time, we enter into a period where people in public office very frequently do lots of terrible things. What turns them around? What stops them from doing terrible things? What makes them correct course and start doing the right thing instead? One thing that sometimes works is shame and embarrassment. Being confronted with the wrongness of what they are doing, feeling shame or embarrassment, or at least the possibility of public rebuke and the awkwardness of being unable to explain their actions in a way that satisfies anyone. Sometimes you can't turn public officials around, but sometimes you can. Sometimes that sort of thing can cause public officials who are otherwise behaving in ways that are weak and wrong to find their spine and to change their minds. And that is why it may be important for our country as a whole and for the history of the American Republic that the first full day of Donald Trump's second presidential term was like this today for Republicans in Washington.
Senator Scott, what do you make of President Trump's pardon of the year?
I haven't seen all of it. Clearly, first off, so many people were unfairly prosecuted.
What about those that assaulted police officers?
I don't believe anybody. If you violate the law, you should be prosecuted.
But what about those who assaulted police officers and then were pardoned by the president?
I haven't seen any. I haven't gone into the detail.
But there are those pardons that exist.
I'll have to read it.
I haven't seen any. I haven't gone into the detail. I have to read it. Very embarrassing for Senator Rick Scott today. Also, turns out to be kind of a theme for the day.
Senator Johnson, morning. How are you feeling about some of the Trump's executive actions?
Love them.
Particularly
specifically on pardon.
Love them.
What about the pardons?
Yeah, I think they were absolutely justified. Again, I don't know all the cases. I certainly don't want to pardon any violent actors, but there was a real miscarriage of justice here.
You
So
went
I'm
forward with some
totally
of those
supportive of
pardons
it.
for violent offenders. Are you comfortable with that?
I haven't seen the details.
He went forward with pardons for violent offenders, though. Are you comfortable with that? I haven't seen the details. I love what he did. I love it. Really? Do you know what he did? I haven't seen the details.
On the January 6th pardons, what message do you think that that sends to the Capitol police officers who were assaulted on that day?
Well, I saw where one family said that they felt it was an injustice, and I understand why they feel that way.
What are your specific thoughts about President Trump's pardon?
It's his authority, and he's using it. We're looking forward and beyond onto other policy issues.
We're looking forward and beyond these questions on to other things that are not these questions, because these are questions I do not want to have to answer.
Are you worried about cases like the leader of the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, folks that were convicted for 20, 30 years?
Am I concerned about it? I mean, it's not ideal, but I'm not overly concerned about it either. I think that the gift is that it's all behind us now. We can stop talking about it.
Oh, is that the gift? The gift is that it's all behind us now, and we can stop talking about it. It's not ideal, but wow, what a gift. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Is it a gift, though, Senator? Really? Because, you know, maybe everybody else thinks we should keep talking about it. How about we keep talking about it, Senator?
There are a lot of senators who voiced concerns that they didn't want any people who had committed violent crimes to not get pardoned.
I didn't either, but they did. They did. And so we're going to move forward with it.
We're going to move forward. Yeah, I really do not want to talk about this. I said the gift here was that I could stop talking about this. Why do you keep asking me? I said it was a gift. They really do not want to talk about it, because there's no easy way to talk about it. I mean, what they are effectively going along with here by not raising objections, by not standing up and saying, this is wrong, I disagree. You shouldn't have done that. I dissent. What they're going along with here is something that they cannot justify. And so therefore, they have no way to reasonably answer even very basic questions about it. And that turns out to be important, because the stomach-churning self-loathing that all of those senators felt today the shame and embarrassment that they felt today as they were asked and asked and asked again about the president of their party springing 211 people who were actively incarcerated in federal prison, mostly for acts of violence against police officers, while they were taking part in a violent attack on the U.S. Congress from which some of these same senators had to run for their lives. The feeling they are having, that disgusting feeling of having to swallow this and try to come up with some way to try to stop talking about it because they can't say anything about it that doesn't disgust them and that isn't viscerally wrong. That sickening feeling, maybe that is what will save the country, or at least slow its descent. Vice President J.D. Vance, 9 days ago, when he was just vice president-elect, he went on TV and said that Donald Trump absolutely should not pardon people who committed violence on January 6th.
If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned.
Obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. J.D. Vance's running mate allowed him to go on television and say that. Obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And then thereafter, after J.D. Vance had drawn that line in the sand, Trump gave a blanket pardon to everyone from January 6th, including the people who beat police officers with 2x4s and baseball bats. J.D. Vance said, obviously that shouldn't happen, and then Trump did it anyway. J.D. Vance should be asked about that every time he pops his head out of his little mole hole from here until the end of his political career. Senator Lindsey Graham, same thing.
To seek a pardon of these people would be wrong. It would be, I think it would destroy President Trump, and I hope we don't go down that road.
It would be wrong. It would destroy President Trump. We shouldn't go down that road. Senator Lindsey Graham should be asked about the fact that Trump did pardon these people every time he pops up in a Senate hallway. So should House Speaker Mike Johnson.
Pled guilty and was charged with attacking an officer. Supposed to get 12 years. You got less than one. Are you okay with that?
It's not my place. It's the president's sole decision, and he made a decision.
Pled guilty, charged with attacking officers, got 12 years in prison, ended up serving less than one. Are you okay with that? It's not my place. It's the president's decision. He made the decision. I don't want to say. Don't ask me. Please don't ask me. Donald Trump's excesses in this second term are not going to be constrained by the reactions of his critics, right? The more his critics are upset, the happier he is. But the more friction he finds from people in his own party, the more people who are his supposed allies are embarrassed to be asked about his actions, or find it difficult to explain why they're going along with what he's doing, or feel compelled by some little voice inside them that they ought to be saying no to what he's doing, that they ought to dissent. The more people feel the gut-wrenching power of shame and embarrassment, being asked to explain the inexplicable, being asked to justify the unjustifiable, the slower his road to ruin may get. But it also matters that the Trump nominee for Attorney General said these pardons would all be handled on an individual case-by-case basis, and that was the right way to do it. Pam Bondi should be asked about that, about her saying that's the way to handle this stuff, every time she appears in public to talk about any single thing, or even if she's there in public to talk about nothing at all. Shame and embarrassment and the difficulty of answering unanswerable questions about indefensible things, those are brakes that can be tapped in our political system. Today in Washington, that brake pedal was hit. It was hit by Republicans, members of Trump's own party, deciding that they didn't want to answer these questions about this indefensible thing. Some of them, Mitch McConnell, Bill Cassidy, Lisa Murkowski, Tom Tillis, decided they would just come out and criticize the pardons decision. That actually happened today. And today, an Episcopal bishop in Washington was brave enough to tell Trump and J.D. Vance to their faces that the country needs them to be decent and needs them to be merciful, and that the country is afraid of what they're going to do. That bravery from that bishop today also hit the brake pedal just a little bit.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away.
And there's Donald Trump and J.D. Vance sitting there and listening, having to. I don't think you probably budged Donald Trump himself by calling on his better angels. But in Washington, in our politics, there's basically one way to make public officials who are otherwise behaving in ways that are weak or wrong and know it. It's basically one way to make them find their spine and change course. And it's to hound them relentlessly on the things they're doing that they know are wrong. First full day of Donald Trump's second term was today. And that's happening. That's a start.